I am. Thank you.
Fantastic. And you guys are going to let Sam in as soon as I finish with the intro so I can see him? Okay, great.
Why would you
All
want
right,
to
we're
do that?
telling me who you are. I love it, Sam.
You're masochistic.
Ah, well, you're sadistic. We're going to have fun.
Yes,
Okay,
we have the perfect couple. Here we go.
indeed. Okay, three, two, one. Hello and welcome to The Nerve. Hello and welcome back to The Nerve. I am your host, Maureen Callahan. Now, we received so much incredible feedback on our segment on borderline mothers and our incredible guest, Sam Vaknin, that he has come back at our request. And a lot of you sent emails saying, would you do difficult fathers or addicted parents or toxic siblings? And so, what we decided to ask Sam about today is narcissism, because I think narcissism is at the root of so many of these difficult relationships and the attempts of those of us not in that particular stew to navigate them. So, welcome back, please, to Sam Vaknin, professor of psychology at CIAPS and the author of several books, including the book that is our reference point today, Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. Welcome back, Sam.
Thank you for having me and thank you for the plug.
Of course, the book is eminently readable. When I got it, I thought, oh, it's like a textbook. It feels almost academic, and then I started getting into it, and it's so conversational and so readable.
Thank you.
And in it, you break down several subsets of narcissism, but in the main, I wanted to begin by asking, do we all possess a degree of narcissism? And is a certain degree of narcissism necessary to be a healthy, functioning human being?
Yes, the answer is yes, and it is. Narcissism is a trait, and as a trait, it's probably hereditary. There's probably a
Mm.
genetic component that determines how much narcissism we're going to have. But everyone has a modicum of narcissism. Everyone has narcissism to some degree. Now, narcissism can be healthy, and when narcissism is healthy, it is at the foundation of the regulation of self-esteem and self-confidence and a sense of self-worth. Narcissism also allows us to redirect various energies. It's kind of a channeling mechanism for various energies, and so it's at the root of ambition and working hard and accomplishing things and so on. And so narcissism is good for you, actually. But like everything else that is healthy, it can go awry. It can become malignant or cancerous. And so then that's when we use the phrase pathological narcissism.
Now, my understanding of it from my deep reading, lo these many years, wonder why, is that the narcissist, the true narcissist, and I do want to get to the other end of the spectrum, but we'll walk there to the malignant narcissist. Do they know A, how bad they are? And B, is it true that true narcissistic personality disorder is really resistant to treatment?
We'll start with the first question, which is always a good idea. And they are aware of their actions and the impacts that their actions are having on other people. So it is not true that narcissists are not self-aware. They know exactly what they're doing, and they know exactly what are the consequences and outcomes of their choices, decisions, and ultimately actions. However, they're completely unaware of their motivations. And because they
Mm.
are unaware of motivation, they kind of come up with a narrative that would explain why they're doing what they're doing. And so the narrative is always self-justifying. We call it an ego-syntonic narrative. It's a narrative that makes the narcissist feel good about himself or herself. It's a narrative that provides the narcissist with the kind of context and motivation and attitude that would render the narcissist's actions socially acceptable in the narcissist's eyes. So a narcissist would never say about himself, I'm saying himself, half of all narcissists are women, but a narcissist would never say about himself, I'm a bad person. He would say, I'm giving you tough love, or I'm doing this for your own sake, or I'm trying to save you, or you are not aware and I'm waking you up. Or so there will always be some kind of storyline or some kind of fiction or some kind of narrative that would justify what the narcissist is doing. As to the second question, depends how you define narcissism, and depends how you define treatment, and depends how you define healing, and so on and so forth. It's a lot more complex than it sounds. In a nutshell, we are in clinical settings perfectly able to induce in the narcissist what we call behavioral modification. So we're able to change the narcissist behaviors. We are able to render the narcissist less antisocial, less abrasive, less obnoxious, more palatable, easier to live with. We can do this in therapy. There's a variety of treatment modalities, from schema therapy, some variants of CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and so on and so forth. And they're pretty successful at accomplishing this. The problem with behavior modification, it is short-term, so you need a lot of maintenance sessions. Otherwise, the effect of the therapy wanes and kind of vanishes, dissipates, and the narcissist reverts to form, to ill form, if I may add. That's the first problem. And the second problem is that the narcissist behaviors are not always the main issue, are not always the main problem. Because there are many people who misbehave. There are many people whose misconduct is egregious, and they're not narcissists. The problem with the narcissist is not so much the narcissist behaviors and choices and decisions, which are always kind of malevolent, if you wish. But the problem is the narcissist personality, the narcissistic core, the narcissistic identity, and how interacting with the narcissist within a fantastic space, the fantastic space the narcissist foists on you, how this impacts you in the long term.
When you say fantastic space, Sam, could you define that and describe that a bit?
Yeah, the narcissist offers you a deal. He says, reality is unbearable, it's intolerable, and I'm going to take you out of reality. I'm going to shield you. I'm going to create a firewall between you and reality. And I'm going to transport you into a Disneyland kind of a fantasy. And you're going to inhabit this fantasy. And within this fantasy, you are perfect. You're a perfect being. You're amazing. You are gracious. You are drop dead gorgeous. You are super intelligent. You're everything you've ever dreamed to be, of being. And so the fantasy is self-aggrandizing. And it's very addictive. It's intoxicating. You see yourself through the narcissist's gaze in a way that finally justifies self-love. You can finally love yourself because you're perfect now. You're flawless. And so this is the core of the fantasy. It isolates you from reality. The second part of the fantasy says, now that you are a guest in my fantasy, that's what the narcissist says. Now that you're a guest in my fantasy, now that I've afforded you access to an idealized version of you, which allows you to love yourself finally, now that I've done all this for you, I expect you to reciprocate. And I expect you to reciprocate in two ways. One, I will assume all responsibility for you and for your life. So you will no longer have agency. You will no longer have independence. You'll no longer be independent. You will no longer have personal autonomy. I'm taking all this away from you. So this is the Faustian deal with the narcissist. And the second thing, you're going to provide me with several things. You're going to provide me with what I call the 4 S's. The 4 S's are sex, services, supply, narcissistic or sadistic, and stability, safety, a sense of safety. Now, if you provide the narcissist with 2 out of the 4 S's, you're in. The job is yours. There's a job interview. It's called auditioning. And if you pass the job interview, you're inducted into the fantasy. From that moment on, you become the narcissist's servant. But it's not a lopsided deal. It's not a lopsided deal because many victims of narcissists have never experienced self-love before. Rosenberg calls it a self-love deficit. And so, and here is the narcissist, and through his gaze, and within the fantastic space that he laboriously constructs for you, he makes you feel safe. He makes you feel perfect. He takes away all the drudgery of life and all the responsibilities and all the need to make decisions and choices which might turn out to be the wrong ones. And he kind of regresses you. He infantilizes you. And now you're a baby. You're his baby. And as a baby, you're entitled to unconditional love. And as a baby, you're safe. And as a baby, all your needs are taken care of. And as a baby, nothing bad would ever happen to you. And of course, as a baby, you never get to make decisions and choices or to have friends or whatever. You're totally isolated as a baby. And so there's a regressive element in the fantasy.
At what point do you find in your experience the so-called victims of narcissists that the light bulb goes off? That first phase, which you described so eloquently, colloquially we in America call the idealization phase or the love bombing phase, and that is a finite phase. It cannot go on forever. At what point do you see the non-narcissists light bulb go off and say something's awry here, something's very awry here?
Yeah, light bulbs hopefully go on, not off. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course, on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. There are two sets of circumstances where light bulbs might go on. And the first one is if the narcissist overdoes it, if the narcissist exaggerates, if the discrepancy between what you know about yourself and what the narcissist is communicating to you via love bombing, and if the narcissist is psychopathic, grooming you, and the idealization phase, which is a clinical term, by the way.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, idealization is a clinical term. So I was trying to avoid clinical terms. So, but yeah, you're right. The correct term is idealization. So within this phase, the narcissist might overdo it, and then you kind of feel you feel the discrepancy. You say to yourself, "This can't be true. Something's wrong here." So for example, if you know that you're good looking but not particularly intelligent, or highly intelligent but not particularly good looking, or whatever, and here comes the narcissist and says that you're the most beautiful person or woman he has ever seen in his life, and simultaneously you far exceed Albert Einstein's IQ and so on. I mean, if you have a minimal, I'm terribly sorry. If you have a minimal self-critical capacity, a minimum of introspection, a minimum self-awareness, this is a light bulb moment, because you're going to wake up, you're going to say, he's manipulating me. He's just trying to manipulate me. And so this is one option. And the second and much more common set of circumstances is when the narcissist transitions ineluctably is another word for inevitably, from idealization to devaluation. Now, devaluation is a built-in feature within the shared fantasy. It's not a bug, it's a feature. The narcissist must devalue you in order to discard you. And the narcissist must devalue you and must discard you because you are his mother. And he is reenacting early childhood conflicts with the maternal figure. We'll not go there. But at some point, the narcissist begins to reverse course. And instead of intelligent, you become stupid. And instead of drop dead gorgeous, you are merely drop dead, and so on and so forth. And this sudden shift, and it's very abrupt, and it has nothing to do with external circumstances. Unlike a lot of misinformation online, it's not that you have criticized the narcissist, or you did not adhere to the narcissist's demands, and then the narcissist devalues you. The narcissist would devalue you even if you are the most obsequious, submissive, catering to all his needs, and he would still devalue you. It's about him, not about you. And at that point, of course, you wake up. At that point, you wake up.
Yes, there's no winning. There's no winning with a true narcissist. No. What is your experience, Sam, with, say, clients who are married, non-narcissists, and I want to get to covert narcissists when we're done with this because I'm fascinated by the covert. But to non-narcissists who realize they are either partnered with or married to narcissists, they have been going through the discard phase and they want to stick it out. They want to justify to themselves that this is a cyclical thing that they can somehow bear.
Well, just a minor disclaimer. I am not a
Yeah.
I'm not a clinician. I'm a professor of
Okay.
psychology, so I don't have clients.
Fair enough. So you don't, okay.
That's a legal obligation. I have to say it. So,
Understood.
but of course, I monitor clinical literature. I have clinical colleagues. I mean, colleagues who work in clinical settings. So I'm well aware of everything that's happening. So the powers of self-delusion are enormous, especially if the fantasy caters to deep-set, real psychological needs that have never been met before. For example, the need to self-love, the need to feel safe, the need to feel understood and accepted, the need to feel that you are superior because you are somewhat narcissistic, and it caters to your grandiosity when the narcissist tells you you are, a perfect being or a perfect entity. There's also that. So if these deep-set fundamental needs are being met in the fantasy, there's little incentive to abandon ship. And so then the partner would create counterfactual narratives, would create justifications of the narcissist's behaviors. One possible such narrative is, it's all my fault. Had I only behaved differently, if I only done that or said that, or if I only refrained from saying this or doing this, I would have been treated well. So it's all my fault. That's one, we call it the autoplastic narrative. Another type of narrative is going through a difficult period. It's a passing phase. Another narrative is, well, that's the way he is, when he's loving, his love is like nothing else. And when he's abusive, it's worth the price. The price is worth the price. And so there are many such self-deceiving narratives. They're self-deceiving because none of them is true. None of them is real. What is the only narrative that's real is the clinical narrative. The narcissist is inexorably drawn into a fantasy, and the fantasy dominates the narcissist. Narcissist has no control over the fantasy. And as I just said, the fantasy is inexorable in the sense that narcissists cannot stop the fantasy, rechannel the fantasy, reframe the fantasy. The fantasy is in full control and mastery. The narcissist is its slave. And the fantasy has well-defined phases: idealization, devaluation, and ultimately discard. They're inevitable phases, nothing to be done. Even the narcissist cannot do anything about it.
Sam, is there a difference between selfishness and narcissism?
Well, egotism or selfishness are derogatory terms. Narcissism is a clinical term. And one could even say that in certain types of circumstances, selfishness is healthy. Putting yourself first is a healthy thing. Not putting yourself first is actually an indication of pathology. So we say, for example, that people pleasers it's a pathological state, pathological set of behaviors, Masochists, it's a pathology. I mean, I can name 10 pathologies. Codependency, I can name 10 types of pathologies where the individual puts himself or herself, their needs, last. That also applies in certain societal, cultural contexts. For example, mothers are supposed to put themselves last.
Yes.
In many societies, wives are supposed to put themselves last.
Yes.
I would even say that universally, children have to put themselves last. Like if you have an aging mother or
Yes.
you have to cater to their needs. You have to take care of them. You have to sacrifice yourself, your family, your money, your time, your resources to take care of them. None of this is healthy.
Agreed.
None of this is healthy, and none of this can be justified either psychologically or philosophically, even ethically. None of it. So I would say that selfishness, unfortunately, we don't have a word in English, which is the antonym or the opposite of selflessness.
Yeah.
But okay, let's say that selfishness is the opposite of selflessness, then I would say that selfishness is healthy, whereas narcissism is not.
You're so right. We need a middle word
Yeah,
that
we don't have one.
that summarizes, because what you're describing, I've seen people I love do it, and it's never a bill that's fully paid, right? In terms of it's situationally putting an aging parent first for a moment or a day or this, that bill never gets paid, and once you get locked in that cycle, I see it's so difficult for people to get out of it.
Yes, because it's a clinging, needy form of emotional blackmail. We call
Hmm.
it clinically, we call it control from the bottom. You control,
Interesting.
yes, you control people by rendering yourself helpless and needy. And this creates an ambience of extortion. Like, if you don't take care of me, I'm going to die. Or if you don't do this for me, I don't know how to do it by myself, and I'm incapable of learning how to do it, and so on and so forth. These are all forms of blackmail. I would suggest the word selffulness, selffulness,
Selffulness.
selffulness. I think
Interesting.
selffulness is healthy, whereas perhaps selfishness is frowned upon socially,
Yes.
albeit it's not pathological, and narcissism is pathological. But selffulness, like mindfulness, yeah, selffulness
Hmm.
is, I think, very, very healthy. It is the self that defines boundaries. It is the self that informs us where we stop and the world begins, and vice versa. It is the self that fulfills very critical functions. For example, reality testing. So
What is
the
reality testing, Sam?
reality testing is the ability to tell what's real and what's not. What the narcissist does to you, the narcissist impairs your reality testing. The narcissist challenges your perception of reality. The narcissist does it unintentionally, not deliberately, as the psychopath does. Psychopath gaslights you.
Hmm.
The narcissist gaslights you unintentionally. So within the fantasy, the narcissist tells you everything you think you know about reality is wrong. You perceive other people wrongly. For example, maybe you're too weak, or you're too submissive and people are taking advantage of you, or you shouldn't love your friend because she's backstabbing you and betraying you, or whatever you think you know about the government is wrong. So there's a lot of conspiracism involved and so on. This is when your reality testing collapses or becomes impaired, and you begin to rely on the narcissist as your sole exclusive gauge of reality. So you're going to come to the narcissist and say, tell me, is this real? Do you think it's real? Do you believe it? Is it believable? As if you have no mind of your own. You have outsourced your mind. The shared fantasy is when you outsource your mind and your ego functions, that's a clinical term, to the narcissist. And he becomes your external mind, like an external hard drive, he becomes your external mind.
I love that analogy. And what you mentioned too about the sort of isolating of the non-narcissist to keep them from, I mean, I think we can see many examples of this in our popular culture today, to keep the victim from the others in their lives who actually would serve as reality enforcers, right? Whether it's a family of origin or long-standing friends, that if they're going to counter the narcissist version of events, they have to go.
Yes. There are two reasons for that. The narcissist superimposes, we call it projection. The narcissist
Hmm.
projects, superimposes his own distorted and thwarted mind on others and on reality. So he says,
Hmm.
they're doing the same thing. They have their own fantasies. I have my own fantasy. They have their own fantasies. Friendship, it's a fantasy. Love, that's a fantasy. Empathy, BS, it's a fantasy. It's all fantasy because it's the only thing the narcissist knows. It's the only kind of experience the narcissist has. And so the narcissist superimposes this conceptual framework of fantasy on others. And then, if you have a friend, if you have the narcissist partner and you have a friend, so that these are two competing fantasies. Your friendship, which is a fantasy in the narcissist's mind, it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Mm-hmm.
friendship competes with his fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to eliminate the competition. So that's one reason. Second reason, friends, family, co-workers, institutions such as the church or, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, your therapist, they
A
all,
royal family, perhaps.
royal family perhaps, on some occasions, they offer you um, sustenance, vigor, succor, strength, resilience. They render you they render you immune to the narcissist fantasy. That is something the narcissist cannot countenance or accept. He needs to convert you into a susceptible entity. If we use immunology like COVID-19, he needs to
Mm-hmm.
take away your immune system because
Ooh, I love that.
his fantasy is a mind virus. And he
Mm-hmm.
needs to infect you with the fantasy. As long as you have an immunological system, which is comprised of people around you and their inputs, that's not going to work. So when you're isolated, your mind plays tricks on you. We know this. That's a clinical fact. When you're isolated, your mind plays tricks on you. And then it appears as if the narcissist is the only stable presence, the only person you can trust, the
Right.
only gauge and measure of reality, and you latch onto the narcissist as if you're adrift in the ocean and you kind of latch onto a piece of driftwood. So that's what he does to you. He removes from your life all certainty, all determinacy, all stability, all reality, and then he renders you dependent by doing this. You become addicted to the self-aggrandizing, idealizing aspects on the one hand,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you become addicted to your newly found self-love on the one hand, but on the other hand, you are rendered so weak, so mentally emaciated that the
Mm.
narcissist becomes your only lifeline. He maintains exclusivity.
So is this what would be termed the folie à deux, where the non-narcissist then becomes sort of fully psychologically, emotionally dependent, and in order to survive has to mesh themselves into that delusion, into that noxious fantasy.
Yes, absolutely. The shared fantasy, which is a term coined by Sander in 1989, was just another rendition of what we used to be known as folie à deux, and today is known as mass psychogenic illness. That's a clinical term, the updated
Mm-hmm.
clinical term.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these are two people where one of them is a leader, one of them is a narrative generator,
Mm.
one of them is the author, and the other one is the character. So
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly like a video game or a movie, where there's a director and a producer and a screenwriter, and then there are actresses and actors, and you are an actress in the narcissist fantasy. Again, let me clarify, half of all narcissists are women. I'm using he because it's a Victorian literary convention, and I'm very
Sam,
Victorian.
I love the way your mind works. I love these descriptors and allegories and metaphors you come up with. You just bring it all so vividly to life. I
Thank
want
you.
to talk to you about what now, if my interpretation is correct based on my own reading as a layperson, the inverted narcissist or the covert narcissist is a relatively recent discovery in the field. Is that right? And can you describe because I find these people, I know them in my own life, and they go around undetected and it drives me nuts. So I want to bring the covert narcissist to the fore. Please enlighten us.
Yeah, that's a very risky thing to do, to bring a covert narcissist to the floor. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll see how to manage the situation. So first of all, the current thinking, the mainstream thinking currently is that all
Mm-hmm.
narcissists go through overt and covert phases. So all narcissists are sometimes in your face, defiant, reckless, go-getters, you know, arrogant, haughty, disempathic, entitled, obnoxious. I don't want to continue the list. So that's the overt narcissist. But
Right.
but even overt narcissists go through covert phases of
Mm-hmm.
covert narcissism and vice versa. So we no longer, as we used to, We no longer make a distinction between pure types. Like the overt is never covert and the covert is never overt.
Got it.
That used to be the thinking until about 10, 15 years ago. And unfortunately, it still prevails online because everyone online is like 15 years back. But today we don't see it that way. Now, the covert narcissist is simply someone whose capacity to secure attention, narcissistic supply, is diminished constitutionally because, for example, he's not very intelligent or not very handsome or not very good looking or whatever. Doesn't have charismatic
any of
skills.
those. Yeah.
Not talented, doesn't have the skills or whatever. So constitutionally unable to obtain narcissistic supply, or has other mental health issues. For example, he's passive aggressive, or he's seething with envy and resentment, or what have you. And so some narcissists would spend most of their lives, the majority of their lives, being in a covert state. So maybe that's what we could call a covert narcissist. Okay?
So what are the manifestations of covert narcissism?
Now we have three types of covert narcissists. One of them is a type that I was the first to describe. It's the inverted narcissist. And that's a narcissist who derives her narcissistic supply, her attention. I'm saying her because majority of inverted narcissists are women.
Fascinating.
She derives her narcissistic supply, her sense of self-worth, her self-confidence, self-esteem, by teaming up with a dominant, in-your-face, overt narcissist. That reminds me that in Germany in the 19th century, if you were married to a medical doctor, they called you Frau Doctor. Even if you didn't have 1 year of education, you were still Frau Doctor. So if the inverted narcissist is a Frau Doctor. She finds
Oh my God, I love this. Frau Doctor.
Frau Doctor.
We're putting that in the lexicon at the Nerve.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's like, by teaming up with the narcissist, she is vicariously enjoying the narcissist exposure, the attention he's getting, the admiration and adulation that he's subject to, and so on, vicariously. I'm the narcissist's wife, this kind of thing. The second type is known as the prosocial or communal narcissist. That's by far the most dangerous type. I would even say more dangerous than the malignant narcissist.
Do tell.
The prosocial narcissist is a communal narcissist, as the name implies, pretends to be empathic, loving, charitable, compassionate, pretends to be a do-gooder who is hell-bent on improving the lot of other people. So he would likely be a social activist, or he would volunteer for an NGO in the furthest corners of Africa, or he would, and it's all done ostentatiously. It's all for public consumption. It's all very visible on the surface. It's all conspicuous. And so it's all public facing and communicable. And this is the prosocial communal narcissist. The problem with these people is that they are believable. And we have something called the rate Bayes fallacy. Never mind that. It's the fact that people believe 90 to 95% of what they are told without fact-checking, verifying, or even exercising minimal critical thinking. So when a narcissist like that comes and tells you, listen, I love humanity, I have empathy for all my fellow beings, I'm engaged all my life, I've sacrificed my well-being and my wealth and my capacity and talents and skills, I've put all of them, harnessed all of them to help humanity. And you would, vast majority of people would believe this kind of person. And then they enter a shared fantasy. And then they're easily manipulable. So these kind of people end up being con artists or swindlers, or they end up abusing their positions as for example, members of the clergy. Or they end up raising humongous sums of money and then, taking off to Barbados or wherever these kind of people run away nowadays. And so on and so forth. It ends badly. All the gurus, all the public intellectuals, all the charitable figures, all the Mother Teresas of the world, and the overwhelming vast majority of them, in all likelihood, pro-social communal narcissists. How do I know that? Because they're famous.
So fascinating, Sam, because this reminds me of Christopher Hitchens writing an expose of Mother Teresa for Vanity Fair. And God, did he catch a ton of crap for that. But he was right.
He was
He
right.
was right to be looking under that hood.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about, so we're talking about in the macro, the sort of most extreme examples who, propel themselves onto the global stage. But in the micro, in your own community or your own network of friends or family, I find these people manifest as the following. They're just so generous. They're just so giving. They advertise what is close to a kind of martyrdom. They'll put others before themselves any day of the week, but they want you to see it. You don't give a gift behind a closed door. You don't do something generous for someone without somehow blaring it out on social media, which, by the way, I think the combination of social media and reality television has embedded narcissism and this kind of narcissism in the culture to the point where it's becoming normalized so as to be undetectable.
Yeah. They are the communal prosocial narcissist is a precursor, the father, if you wish, of influencers. It's a kind of influencer. But the influencers are not hiding their commercial affiliations and that they're benefiting from all this. And so in this sense, they're honest and take it or leave it situation.
Right.
The pro-social communal narcissist plays on victimhood. It's as you mentioned, it's self-sacrificial. I'm the sacrificial lamb. And I'm doing this for you. And I'm paying a horrendous personal price for doing this. But I'm still doing this. Why? Because I'm a good person. I'm essentially a good person. That's my quiddity, my goodness, And so these are very dangerous people. That's the second type of covert narcissist. I'm mindful of the time and I don't want to...
Keep going. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
And the third type of covert narcissist is someone who is, as I said, seething with envy and resentment, is highly grandiose, but believes himself to be discriminated against, overlooked, develops some kind of personal conspiracy theory where people are envious of him and they have a malign intent and they're holding him back or taking him down or conspiring against him or something. So it's someone who is immersed in a narrative, a seething narrative, festering narrative of, look at me, I'm being victimized by everyone, by the entire world because of my superiority. I am supremely intelligent, and that's why my academic supervisors hate me, or my teachers hate me. I am amazingly skilled and talented, and that's why my boss never gives me a promotion. My colleagues envy me, and that's why they are undermining my work. And it's always not my fault. This is known as alloplastic defense. So this type of covert narcissist blames the world, institutions, colleagues, neighbors, family members, spouses, children, his dog, you name it, blames the world for any defeat, any mishap, any error, any mistake, any miscalculation, any wrong decision, any choice that have panned out badly, and so on. So this is the third type, the most common type, actually, of covert narcissism.
Really?
Yeah, that's the most common type.
Why do you say, Sam, let's say even in a pro-social context that's in the micro, right? So just someone in your own community, in your field of vision, that those are the most dangerous kinds of narcissists? What is the worst outcome that could happen?
You don't see them coming. You don't see them coming. The malignant narcissist is a caricature. The malignant narcissist is a narcissist. He's also a psychopath. And he's also a sadist. And you see him coming from miles away. And you can protect yourself, you can defend it, protect yourself.
Interesting.
If you are self-destructive, that's your ideal partner. And many self-destructive people team up with narcissists and psychopaths and malignant narcissists because this guarantees their own demise. It's a safe and certain way to end essentially your productive life, if not your physical life. So, but you see them coming. You can, you don't see the prosocial or communal narcissist coming. You don't see them coming. The covert narcissist is, by definition, covert. It's very difficult. We have
How do you, sorry, go on.
We have studies where we have exposed people to photographs and email messages of narcissists. And people were able to spot overt narcissists. They had what we call the uncanny valley reaction. They became highly uncomfortable. They were able to spot overt narcissists within 3 to 30 seconds. They were exposed to a video or a photograph or an email, and within 3 to 30 seconds, they have the majority of people have correctly identified others who have been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Overt narcissism triggers something in you, makes you feel uncomfortable. Something is off-key, something is half-baked, something is wrongly put together. We call it the uncanny valley reaction. Covert narcissists don't trigger this in you. They are really under the radar. It's very, very difficult to spot them. And I would even say that they're not as aware of their actions as overt narcissists are. Really? So it's not that they're hiding anything from you. There isn't even the overt narcissist knows exactly what they're doing. Yeah. He knows he's hurting you. He's going to invent some kind of story to justify himself and everything, but he knows exactly what he's doing. Very often, the covert narcissist is self-deceiving, extremely self-deceiving. We say that the overt narcissist is self-enhancing, whereas the covert narcissist is self-deceiving. The covert narcissist just wants to feel at peace, whereas the overt narcissist wants to feel superior. So with the overt, it's about superiority. With the covert, it's about reducing anxiety. It's an anxiolytic state, an attempt to reduce anxiety.
Anxiolytic state.
Yeah. So it's really, really, really pernicious, insidious. And when the covert narcissist finds a way to obtain supply by pretending to be a good person and by deceiving not only himself, but millions of others, you can imagine the damage.
I find that these people also are never given, rarely if ever given, to expressing what I would consider a healthy degree of anger. You know, it seems that their investiture is in their public facing role. They are even keeled. They can take anything. Nothing is a big deal. Everything is cool, because to be angry would somehow be, I don't know,
compromise their image.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about covert narcissism. And that's
exactly.
That's very true, because as I mentioned earlier, they're passive aggressive. Passive aggression is when you do not express anger overtly, when you do not verbalize it, when you do not communicate it, when you're not attempting to influence the behavior of other people by telling them, I'm angry at you. There's no honesty.
Right.
Covert narcissism is a dishonest condition. And what the covert narcissist does instead, he is being passive aggressive. He sabotages you. He undermines you. He poisons your mind with a trickle, incremental kind of. So while the overt narcissist is highly overt, so there's narcissistic rage. When the overt narcissist is angry at you, it becomes disproportional and crazy making, and it's a form of acting out, and we call it narcissistic rage. It's unique to narcissists. It's not exactly anger. It's not an attempt to modify your behavior. It's an attempt to annihilate you. Or at the very least, subjugate you. At the very least.
Yes. Yeah. Sam, what do you do? I guess we'll leave it with this. This is, I think, is the most common question we have gotten from our audience. As a non-narcissist, if you are forced to be in proximity with a narcissist, you either realize you are married to one, or they are in your family and there's no getting away from them. You realize that there's a covert among you, agreed, the most malevolent, destructive, difficult to spot. How do you defend yourself?
Let's start with the fact that I've mentioned. You spot a narcissist within 3 to 30 seconds. 3 seconds are studies in Harvard, and so these are serious universities and serious studies. You spot them. Don't kid yourself. Don't deceive yourself. Don't say, I've been played. You know, the narcissist is such a great actor and I've been played. I discovered this months later. Not true. In all likelihood, you knew that something was wrong within seconds. And so this is the fact, the first fact. Second fact, The longer you're exposed to the narcissist, the more likely you are to develop narcissistic defenses and ultimately to resemble the narcissist very, very much. You're likely to become a narcissist. Narcissistic defenses involve, for example, a reduction in empathy, becoming much more aggressive or even violent, verbally abusive at least, and so on. So narcissism is contagious. It's infectious. Point number 3, narcissistic abuse is not like other types of abuse. It's not like being beaten, which is bad, of course. Battering is bad, but it's not the same. It's not like being subject to financial abuse or legal abuse or I don't know, verbal abuse. It's not the same. All other forms of abuse limit themselves to an aspect of you, to some dimension of you, to some area of your life, to some particular group of friends, to your bank account, to your sexuality.
It's an annexed part of your life.
Yeah. It's I wouldn't say it's on the fringe, but it's limited. Other types of abuse are limited. Narcissistic abuse is unlimited. The main goal of narcissistic abuse is to eliminate you as an independent agentic entity and to reproduce you as an internal artifact in the narcissist's mind. That is annihilation. That is eradication. That's not abuse. I think narcissistic abuse, the phrase that I coined, I'm beginning to regret it. I think I should have coined the phrase narcissistic eradication.
Never too late, Sam.
Yeah, never too late. Yeah, right. I'm young. So you can tell the difference, because with classical types of abuse, it's a touch and go. The abuser is there, then the abuser is not there, then the abuser, it's intermittent. It comes and goes. With narcissistic abuse, it's all pervasive. It's all consuming. There's no respite. There's no rest. There's no break. There's no pause. It's it. This is it. This has become your life, And so,
well, as you said at the top of the show, it's a mind virus. Once it gets into your mind and that parasite takes hold of the host body, the narcissist could be away for a month. It doesn't matter. It's working on you.
It's very true. The clinical term is introjection. The narcissist insinuated himself into your mind, never to leave unless you take care of it via therapy and so on. But so when you feel that the abuse is this kind of abuse, that is taking over you, a hostile takeover, when you are losing your identity, we wake up in the morning and you say, that's not me. I don't feel the same. I can't believe I've said that. I can't believe I've done that. I can't believe I've made this choice. If you can't believe, if you find yourself incredulous and incredible, and in the worst sense of the meaning of the word, then it's time to go, because you are becoming him. You're becoming your narcissist. And that's a very dangerous process, because it triggers in you very infantile, primordial, primitive defenses, like splitting. It reduces your capacity to empathize. It takes away your sense of identity and core self. It renders you more automatic, more robotic. It makes you a schizoid. In other words, you begin to isolate yourself. Self-isolation, forget the narcissist, and so on and so forth. These are detrimental and deleterious impacts that would take years to unravel in therapy and so on. The sooner you abdicate, the sooner you abandon ship, the better your prognosis later on. Now people say, but I can't abandon ship. I can't leave the narcissist. It's my mother. Oh, I can't leave the narcissist. It's my son. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. A narcissist is a clear and present danger, and a mortal one. It's a mortal danger. And so you need to let go. You need to go no contact, which is a set of 27 strategies that I was the first to propose in the 80s. You need to go no contact. No contact means no contact. Not directly, not indirectly, not by litigating, which is a way of staying in touch.
Right.
Not by stalking social media. No contact means no contact. Now, some people say, so I don't buy the it's my son, it's my mother kind of response. Another kind of response, I can't live because I'm financially dependent on the narcissist. Well, give up on your lifestyle and flip burgers in McDonald's. That's my answer. Anything is better.
Sam, what do you say to the people who would say, "Oh, Sam, it's no contact in theory, sure, but here's the pressure I get when my nephew is getting married or there's a 90th birthday celebration and I'm going to be the bad guy because I refuse to be in the same room with the narcissist who is so dark and damaging. I'm the one who's supposed to just suck it up for an hour or two and play nice. I don't have to interact with him." What is your response to that? What is your best advice?
If you suck it up, you will be sucked in. As simple as that. Any single time that you suck it up, you're going to be sucked into the narcissist whirlwind and vortex and shared fantasy. You exposing yourself to 1 hour in the presence of a narcissist would mean another few months or another few years of having to cope with the outcomes, amongst which is a new shared fantasy. This is what narcissists do. They infect you. They don't need much. So what other people, you have to decide what are your priorities. Your well-being, your mental health, your ability to function, being there for people you love, your agency, your independence, your personal autonomy, your core identity, knowing who you are, feeling one and the same with yourself, not experiencing estrangement and alienation. This is one set of priorities, and another set of priorities, what would your nephews and nieces and the neighbor would say? So if what other people would say about you matters to you more than everything else I've just enumerated, go ahead, attend the wedding.
Well, if you are to go with option B and remove yourself permanently, I think you also have to uh, allow yourself to know you're going to have to grieve. You're going to have to grieve all of those people who take the side of the narcissist and continue to suck it up because it's better to go along to get along, which is, I think, the default position of most dysfunctional families.
There is massive grief involved in giving up on a narcissist, the likes of which there's none. Because you are giving up on a mother figure. You are giving up on your child. The narcissist becomes your child. You become a maternal figure in the shared fantasy. So it's like giving up on your child. Simultaneously, you're grieving the death of a mother figure, the death of a child figure, the death of the fantasy, the death of the narcissist gaze, the removal of the narcissist gaze, which allowed you to self-love finally, the death of the disappearance of that person. I mean, there's attachment, there's bonding, sometimes trauma bonding with the person. So there are multiple layers of grief. This is archaeological grief. There are multiple layers of grief. And the grief is not superficial but the grief becomes who you are, and the grief becomes your new shared fantasy. The grief is fantastic because what you're mourning has never been there. The narcissist you're mourning has never existed. The fantasy you're mourning is a fantasy. All of it is nonsense. It's a dream. You're mourning the dream, and so the grief itself becomes a captivating, intoxicating, harmful shared fantasy or form of fantasy, and you're unable to let go. We call it prolonged grief disorder. There's a clinical term for that. There's a clinical term for everything, by the way.
I'm getting that. I'm getting that from you.
We love to pathologize people. It's a money-making device.
Yeah, right. Well, that's very funny and somewhat there's some truth to what you're saying, but I love your phrase archaeological grief. I would love for that to penetrate the lexicon. Archaeological grief, complicated grief, moving through grief and knowing that if it's profound and true, as opposed to the fantasy that one is grieving, when you get to the other side, there is a level of freedom that is hard won, but truly real.
Allow me to add one more sentence, with your permission.
Yes, please.
The biggest element in this grief is that you have lost yourself. You're no longer you. You're no longer you in any meaningful way. You have lost your core identity, your agency, your autonomy, your self-perception, what we call self-concept. You've lost your self-concept. You no longer know who you are. You derive your sense of being and existence and your sense of reality from the narcissist. having been exposed to the narcissist. So there's nothing there. Once a narcissist is gone, you're floating in deep space. It's a state of obliviousness and oblivion. There's nothing to latch onto. There's no
Mm-hmm.
core. You're in a
Mm-hmm.
totally fluid state.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is very menacing. It's terrifying. Additionally, you have merged with the narcissist. You fused with the narcissist. You melded. We call it the
Mm-hmm.
symbiotic phase. You created a symbiosis with the narcissist, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to separate from the narcissist to become
Mm-hmm.
again an individual. Narcissist regressed you to a baby state, and as a
Mm-hmm.
baby, you're always one with mommy. So
Mm-hmm.
having regressed you to an infantile state, you became one with the narcissist. And now you need to break. It's like Siamese twins. You need a chirurgical, you need an operation, an intervention to. The good news is, and I want to end on a good note, which is highly atypical of me, and I apologize. But the good news is that having been exposed to a narcissist, being victimized by a narcissist, having survived a narcissist in some way, the prognosis is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
If you subject yourself to soul searching and self-exploration and at the same time to therapy
Mm-hmm.
and the various modalities of therapy, again, I refer
Mm-hmm.
people to a playlist on my YouTube channel. It's titled Narcissistic Abuse, Healing and Recovery. There's,
Mm-hmm.
I think, 200 videos by now,
Okay.
and it's totally free and so on. But in a nutshell, if you attend therapy, and which kinds of therapies you can find on the list in the list that I've mentioned, and there's another list titled therapies, which is very suggestive. And so if you visit these two playlists, and you attend therapy, and you do a lot of studying and learning and soul searching and talking to yourself and becoming your best friend again, reacquiring your best friendship with yourself, and exploring your core and who you truly are, and so on and so forth, the prognosis is excellent. Your chances for healing and recovery verge on 100%. This is not narcissism, where healing is absolutely impossible.
Mm-hmm.
This is not psychopathy, where we don't even attempt therapy. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a lost case completely. This
Mm-hmm.
is not this. This is not it. This is whatever, however long the shared therapy has been with the narcissist, it is a temporary phase. It's a transient phase. And you can reemerge from this. Don't give up on yourself and don't despair. As I repeat, the outcome of therapy and self-exploration is very close to 100% recovery and healing. So go for it.
I love that message. And I guess against your own best impulses, Sam, this is the second time you've been here and you've ended on a high note. You want to
Yeah.
give people a little bit of,
Yeah, I'm ashamed. I feel guilty. There's a lot of
you're
dissonance
a
involved.
mensch. You're
Yes,
a mensch.
yes, I'm Jewish. How can I help it? Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you again so much for coming on the Nerve and having yet another fascinating, illuminating discussion. Archaeological grief. I will be taking that with me in my back pocket.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure as usual.
Always a pleasure.
Take care.
See you
Bye
soon.
bye.
Bye.